Alpha Squad reporting in. Thanks for the support back there. We've been assigned to ensure you make it to the Legate. How can we be of assistance? You're in charge of this operation. That sounds like a suicide mission, but our orders are to take commands from you. Unit, let's move out. Let's get going.
And who are you to come before me? You bear the insignia of the bear, yet you do not wear it as a soldier of the West wears it. We shall see how brave you are when nailed to the walls of Hoover Dam, your body facing west so you may watch your world die.
That's a fine bit of work back there. Truth told, I'm surprised you made it out of there in one piece. You and the dam. I'm impressed to say the least, and that's no easy thing. You've secured NCR's future. The administration sends its thanks for what it's worth. Least we could do. And seeing those shits of Caesar kicking dirt as they ran did my heart good, let me tell you. Might see some recruitment number rise, build some morale out in the Mojave long enough for the NCR to find its feet again. All due to you. Again, you have my thanks. And all the West, too. Once they pass it over the radio. After signing the right release forms. Course not. You earned it. Rest up. Let us carry things for a while. Kind of curious how this is going to pan out in the long run. But I guess history will tell us in its own sweet time.
And so the courier who had cheated death in the cemetery outside Good Springs cheated death once again, and the Mojave wasteland was forever changed. The new California Republic celebrated its second victory at Hoover Dam, establishing definitive control over the entire Mojave wasteland. Soon after, they negotiated terms to annex the Strip, Freeside, and many surrounding communities. The Mojave wasteland, at long last, had entirely fallen under the NCR's banner. The courier, fair and even-handed in her dealings throughout the wasteland, was honored by the NCR for her support of the military at Hoover Dam. She was presented with the Golden Branch, the highest civilian decoration given by the Republic.
Though some super mutants in Nightkin continued to journey to the legendary Utopia, they found little trace of its existence. Some eventually found their way to Jacobstown, but many wandered off into the wastes, confused and disheartened.
Still grappling with self-doubt over his usefulness in the face of old age, Raul was never able to find peace with himself. Eventually, he left the Mojave and assumed a new name, as he had done so many times before.
Without organized leadership, the remaining boomers slowly drifted away, leaving Nellis Air Force Base to be flooded by prospectors and scavengers. All of the boomers' accumulated knowledge quickly scattered, and their existence slowly faded from memory.
Buried beneath tons of rubble, the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel was no more. Those few who were outside the Hidden Valley bunker when it was destroyed settled into new lives, or headed west to find a new chapter to join.
At odds with leadership over the Brotherhood's future, Veronica looked to the Mojave wasteland for an answer both she and they could live with. But the answer would never come, and the dangers of the world that had left the Brotherhood of Steel behind would eventually claim her life.
Never weakened by NCR, the Fiends staged an attack against Camp McCarran during the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. Though NCR repulsed the Fiends, they suffered heavy losses in the process.
After the NCR's victory at the dam, the followers of the Apocalypse were pushed out of Old Mormon Fort during its occupation by NCR forces. NCR further encouraged them to leave Outer Vegas entirely, and the followers had no choice but to comply.
Though Arcade's intentions were pure and his goals were noble, he ultimately succumbed to the harsh brutality of the Mojave, like so many before him.
Travelers continued to stop by Good Springs Source for water on the Long 15, but rarely would anyone venture into the ruins of Good Springs itself. Those who did were almost always tourists, come to visit the graveyard where the courier rose from the dead.
The slaughter of the Van Graffs and the Crimson Caravan caused no end of trouble for NCR back west. Already struggling, NCR's supply line suffered further as the two caravans withdrew support until the massacre in the east was resolved. Despite the destruction of Cassidy caravans, Cass lived for 30 more years. She made her way back west and passed away in a small shack outside of Vault City, the rose pendant still around her neck.
After generations of being beaten down, the great Khans were finally broken by the courier. Those few who avoided the courier's wrath moved north into the wilderness of Idaho, where they tried once more to rebuild.
With no cure for the Nightkin schizophrenia in sight, the disgruntled Nightkin left Jacobstown. Without a treatment, their insanity grew. The crazed Nightkin terrorized the wasteland, and Jacobstown suffered repeated reprisals from mutant-hating humans. In the end, the surviving mutants abandoned Jacobstown entirely, its existence quickly forgotten by the rest of the wasteland.
Encouraged by the courier to stop taking her medication altogether, Lily's instabilities grew worse with each passing day. Eventually, she became little more than a ravening beast, the kindly old grandmother subsumed beneath the rage.
While the NCR was busy fighting the Legion at Hoover Dam, some kings took it upon themselves to attack NCR citizens and soldiers around Freeside. When the NCR moved to secure the region, they cracked down the hardest on Freeside, sending a full platoon to sweep the neighborhood. Most of the kings were killed, with a few survivors driven out into the wastes.
Having never received a replacement brain, Rex finally succumbed to old age, abruptly shutting down forever one quiet morning. After 2 centuries of life and decades of service to humanity, Rex collapses and dies.
Driven into a frenzy by their use of Psycho, the Misfits inflicted heavy casualties on the Legion during the defense of Camp Golf. At first, they were commended for their valor, but eventually, desperate for more of the chem, they turned on travelers in Outer Vegas. For their dishonorable conduct, the NCR court-martialed and executed them by firing squad.
Though Novak was a low-priority target for the Legion, many of Novak's citizens died in its defense. With no other communities coming to its defense, Novak would eventually fall to the Legion's persistent attacks.
As the Battle of Hoover Dam ended, Boone confirmed what he had always suspected, that revenge would never quiet his troubled mind. Sidearm in hand, he journeyed back to California in search of the NCR officer who had led the attack on Bitter Springs. There, with only 2 bullets loaded, Boone did the only thing he believed would put an end to his suffering.
With the dam firmly in their grasp, the NCR turned its attention towards wresting the correctional facility from Powderganger hands. The Powdergangers are no match for the battle-hardened troops of the NCR, and summary execution awaited the Powdergangers who managed to survive.
After the majority of the Vault 19 Powdergangers joined the Great Khans, the weaker members scattered throughout the Mojave Wasteland. Though a few managed to erase their past, most never survived the journey.
Prim, already torn apart by Powdergangers, was dealt a killing blow by the courier. Though prospectors pick through the remains of the town from time to time, no one reestablishes it as a settlement.
Although they performed admirably during NCR's defense of Hoover Dam, the Rangers fell into decline soon after. With Hanlon's plot against the occupation exposed, and Oliver hailed as the NCR's new war hero, many Rangers were greeted coldly on their return home. Few openly blamed the Rangers for Hanlon's treachery, but public and political support for the organization quickly dwindled.
Despite surviving the destruction of the oil rig and the loss of their comrades at Navarro, the venerable remnants were no match for the courier. They carried the secrets of their old lives to their graves.
And so the courier's road came to an end, for now. In the new world of the Mojave Wasteland, fighting continued, blood was spilled, and many lived and died just as they had in the old world. Because war never changes.